Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, my brothers and sisters. Good morning, and welcome to another Good Morning Grief Devotion. It's your boy, Pastor Corey Allen Duncan Sr. So excited to have this time and this opportunity to come to you on today to lead you in a very special way in yet another grief devotion. What is grief? I'm so glad you asked. Grief, my brothers and sisters, it is the natural and normal response to loss, change, and transition that results in the expressions of feelings and emotions. Grief is what you feel on the inside. Mourning is what you reveal on the outside. Therefore, we don't suppress it, but we express it. We don't ignore it, but we explore it. We don't conceal it, but we reveal it. We don't lock it up, but we let it out. And that's why we shout good morning, because morning is a good thing. I want to thank you so very much for joining us on today, on this Sunday, February the 18th. This is indeed the day that the Lord has made. He has commanded us to rejoice and to be glad in it. And I'm so glad to have this wonderful opportunity to lead you in yet another grief devotion. Today is day 49. This message is right on time. We're going to talk about my grief isn't predictable or orderly. My grief isn't predictable or orderly. Let's get to it, y'all. People talk about the stages of grief, but my grief isn't shaped like that. Come on. People talk about the stages of grief. They talk about it's funny because I've been studying these different models of grief, all of these different models, the more prominent ones that are out today. And it's just so good. But one of them is the five stages of grief made by Miss Kubler. And she talks about how people go through grief. They go through denial and anger and bargaining and depression and acceptance, right? And so that's one of the most popular models, the different stages of grief. And I love it because number one, we always talk about how grief is not linear. It's not a straight line. It's not stage one, stage two, stage three, stage four. Oh, you reached the end. You did it. You made. That's not the way it is. Grief is all over the place, right? And I love it because the author points it out. He says, people talk about the stages of grief, but my grief isn't shaped like that. And if you've heard of these stages before and you recognize that your grief is not shaped like that, you are not alone. It is not linear. It does not go one step, two step, three step, four step. No, it can be all over the place. It can jump back and forth. There may be other things that you may feel besides those five things or those five stages, right? And so there's other elements that come into play. He says, for one, I experience a mixture of feelings at the same time, right? It's not just I'm in anger, I just feel anger now, and then I'm going to feel depression when I get to this next stage. Now, you can be angry and depressed at the same time, right? That you can be in denial and you can be depressed. You can be in denial and you can you can feel a myriad of emotions when it comes to grief, right? That grief can be all over the place and you can feel, like he said, a mixture of feelings at the same time. Number two, I sometimes return to feelings I had earlier in my journey. Once again, it's not linear. It's not, you go through these stages and once you go through one stage, you're finished with that stage. No, you may revisit a stage. You may come back to feelings that you had once before. And sometimes you think you're taking steps backwards, or you think I had a relapse, or I thought I was over this point by now. I want to tell you that's not how grief works, right? That's why you got to give yourself grace to grow. That's not how it works. It's not, we're taking three steps and I went through this one phase and I thought I was out of it, but I came back to it. That's not the way it works, right? No, you can come back to feelings that you had before. You can revisit stages that you revisited once before. You got to know, you got to be aware of how grief flows. Number three, I rarely know where my grief will take me next. This is so true, right? He says, people talk about the stages of grief, but my grief isn't shaped like that. For one, I experience a mixture of feelings at the same time. Two, I sometimes return to feelings I had earlier in my journey. And three, I rarely know where my grief is going to take me next. You don't know the elements and everything that is involved when it comes to your grief journey. You don't know the triggers you're going to face. You don't know the traumas. You don't know what is going to unearth. You don't know what's going to happen, right? Because you haven't been through this particular set of circumstances before, right? And even if you lost a loved one in the past and you lost another one, this one ain't that one, right? And some of us think, well, I did good when my mother died. So now that my child died, or I did good when my child died, but now that my parent died, since I've been there before, I'm going to be, nah, you don't know. You don't know where your grief is going to take you next. Every situation is different. Every circumstance is different. Everything you go through is going to be different. This is what you got to know, and this is what you got to understand. And you don't know where it's going to take you next. We don't know what tomorrow holds. We don't know what the next moment holds. We have no idea, and this is what you got to know and understand. That's okay, right? Here it is. Each day, my grief is what it is. I love that. That's so good, y'all. Each day, my grief is what it is. I got to learn how to embrace the chase and trust the process. I got to learn when it comes to my grief journey, I got to embrace the chase. I have to learn how to trust the process, right? Because each day is going to be different. And each day, my grief, it is what it is. I don't have to concern myself with where I should be. I love that quotations in my grief. Don't let nobody try to tell you where you should be as it relates to your grief. As long as you're mourning, mourning is action, mourning requires movement, right? As long as you're not just feeling but revealing, right? As long as you're expressing and not suppressing, right? Don't let people tell you where you should be, right? The only thing I'm gonna say is, yeah, you should make sure you're evolving from grieving to mourning. Remember, grief is what you feel, mourning is what you reveal. That you have to actively mourn, that you definitely want to make that step. But if you're doing that, don't let people tell you where you should be, right? Because everything is different. There are too many elements, there are too many dynamics, there are too many variables that go into the equation to try to come up with a formula that helps you to progress and helps you to say you should be here or there. Don't let people tell you where you should be, right? This is so very important to understand. I love it. Check this out. Here it is. Don't let people tell you where you should be in your grief. Instead, I am where I am. And that is always enough. I love it, y'all. Look, it is what it is. I am where I am, right? Matter of fact, you can say that. I am where I am, and it is what it is, right? I am where I am, and it is what it is. Not saying that you're listless and don't care and don't have a plan and you're not navigating through the journey. I am, right? And however I feel is how I feel. Whatever I encounter is what I encounter. I am where I am, and it is what it is, right? I'm navigating through the journey the best way I can. So give yourself grace, give yourself space to navigate through the journey. I am where I am, and that is always enough. Look at the final thought, y'all. I embrace the chaos that is life. I embrace the chaos that is life. I embrace the chaos that is life. Grief is just one big ball of chaos, right? And it's okay. I embrace the chaos that is life. I am where I am, and guess what? It is what it is. Today, my brothers and sisters, is day 49. This message, I hope, is right on time. My grief isn't predictable or orderly. Hold on to this word because your grief is not predictable. You can't predict it, and it's not orderly. You can hope, you can wish, right? But it's not predictable. Stuff will hit you out the blue. Stuff that you didn't think of, stuff will trigger you, and all of these things will happen, and it's not orderly and it's not predictable. And guess what? It's okay. I am where I am. It is what it is. It's Pastor Corey Allen Duncan Sr. Hope you've been blessed today. Hold on to these grief messages. Continue to hold on and hang on. I'm telling y'all, help is on the way. We're going to get through it. I love y'all with the love of the Lord. I'll see y'all tomorrow, same time, same place.